Hey everyone, so this video is going to be all about Priya and why I think every free-to-play player as well as mild spender should be focusing on getting this amazing toon. So firstly, just going over Priya as a 6-star. I think she's a great toon to use, even as a 6-star form. Her rush, dealing 3 attacks of 225% damage to one enemy, while also confusing and impairing for 3 turns a line of enemies, is great for control as well as for damage, without triggering payback sometimes. Her leadership skill, being a plus 40% attack and a huge bonus to AP when attacking, helps with any type of range team that you want to run. Her active skill can also be very useful by removing all positive effects, especially with Kapoor now being on some defense teams. When he gives the plus 80% defense to the enemy, it can be very difficult sometimes to break them down, so this would help you remove that 80% defense. On her weapon, now I don't have it perfect and I don't plan on fixing it for now, just because I'm trying to get an S-class Priya, so I will lose her weapon anyway, but I love her special skill. So when attacking, 100% chance to daze for 4 turns when my HP is greater than 75%. This is so useful against teams that have toons with turn 1 active skills. So we look at Dr. Stevens as the prime example, and considering Scopely's having a somewhat syringe event for him right now, so more people will likely have Dr. Stevens now, it's very useful to have daze. So mod set, I did attack, HP, attack versus alert, especially for those Negans, as well as the red meta that's going on. I have a stun resist because of all the red toons, as well as an attack up when impaired, because if I want to use Priya, say, on a Magna blue shield, and I rush her, so if she gets impaired on the first of 3 attacks, she will get an attack bonus for those next 2 attacks while being impaired. I could have also gone with an attack up when taunted, because I run Priya with my Dale, who can focus my whole team, but I find it more realistic to use my attack up when impaired for Priya in the case of how my team functions. The HP mod is on Priya just because I find her to be very squishy, especially when there are S-class toons on defense, and I would have gone with maybe, a crit chance mod if I think she could survive, just because she has 3 attacks, and if she gets a critical hit on one of them, then that's 1.5 times the amount of damage. I feel like when I get Priya as an S-class toon, I will probably not use an attack versus alert mod, but maybe do attack versus fast and attack versus tough, for instance, because she will already have such high attack and an automatic trait bonus from being a blue toon attacking an alert toon. As you see here, I am still a ways away from getting an S-class Priya. I need a lot more cones, like something like 4,000 more cones, in order to get her as an S-class toon. And as an S-class toon, she just gets even better. Here we see her with a max of 30 rings, 5,428 attack. That doesn't include her lead skill, which is plus 50% attack to all ranged teammates. Her rush is even stronger now. And with the added attack from being an S-class toon, that 275% damage times 3 is even more damage than before. And again, the impair and confuse, I think, is brilliant because it allows her to control any enemies that she doesn't end up killing, especially when you consider that toons can only mod against 2 types of resistances. So if you have confuse resist and impair resist, well, then you're missing taunt, bleed, burn, stun, daze, trauma, and anything else that's out there. So a toon cannot be modded to withstand and resist everything. So by her having both impair and confuse, it gives you a couple different options. And then she retains the same active skill, which, as I mentioned before, can actually be fairly useful depending on how you use it and depending on the types of buffs that you come across. Now, one thing that I have not tested with this active skill is if it can remove focus from a toon, because I would say focus is a positive status effect, but I've mainly used it in order to remove things like an attack buff or a defense buff. So I'm unsure what else it can actually do, but I'm all for experimenting with it. And going off to her weapon, the special 100% chance to daze for 4 turns when your HP is more than 60%. So this daze, I think, is just so useful and helpful because you get a lot of toons with turn 1, turn 2, and sometimes turn 3 active skills can be difficult to control. So this just gives you an option to stop them from using it. So like if we look at Mia, for instance, she has an active revive. And because of Outlast, she has that additional turn in order to try and revive someone else. So either by her rush or her active skill. But if you say rush with Priya, well then Mia is confused, she's impaired, and she's dazed. So now we're going to go through some battle film. So here you see I focus on Pete first because I find his active skill to be really annoying by being able to recover maim as well as heal the team on turn 2. I follow up by dazing Mia because as I mentioned before, her active skill is reviving a toon. So here by using Dale, I'm able to defense down the enemy as well as apply some maim damage. See, the tough part with this team is that my Morgan is very inconsistent because 50% of the time when he kills an enemy, he will gain 100% AP. So it becomes tough to be consistent with that. And as you see, I had to utilize some active skills in order to control the enemy. So Mia there was able to rush because I wasn't able to impair or confuse her, but I was able to stun Priya by using Earl's active skill. I rushed with Priya on the other Mia in order to apply the confuse and impair to Negan without triggering his payback. So that's just one example where the line of status effects can be really useful because if Negan rushes, then there's bonus HP and then there's also quite a bit of defense. And Pete already has a high amount of defense being an S-class toon. So here it's just about finishing Pete off with some rushes, and the defense down really comes in handy against some of these tanky teams. Here's another example. I'm able to use Daze, and because Dr. Stevens is dazed, he's not going to use his active skill to gain 100% AP. And in this case, I'm very lucky where everyone attacks and ends up impairing themselves. And this just makes it a lot easier to finish a match like this. Here I got lucky and Morgan had his follow-up with a 100% AP bonus. So I was able to rush Morgan twice. And if I had an additional command toon, or if I hadn't just used Dale, I sometimes have a chance of rushing Morgan 3 times in a single turn, which is honestly really awesome because I end up finishing some matches in 3 turns when they might take me like 4 or 5 more turns, depending on who I'm facing and the types of rushes that I'm waiting for. Now, I will admit this last part took me a lot longer than it should have because I just left it on auto and kind of left it there. If I had actually been focusing, it would have been done faster and I probably would not have lost Magna. So the other toon that's on my radar right now to pair up with Priya when I get her as an S-class especially is Diego. I want to use Diego as a lead because his leadership skill will support both strong and tough characters. That plus 40% attack and a huge bonus to AP when attacking will help me create a very dynamic attack team, in my opinion. Also with his rush, it means I don't have to use Dale, for instance, because he applies just a little bit of damage, but also does minus 65% defense and impair for 2 turns to 1 enemy and all enemies adjacent. So if I use that on the center toon, it really lines up kills fast and easily. Luckily, I should be able to get Diego this week because I only need 14 more comic books in order to acquire him from the museum collection, and that's only 1 more Rick figure for me. So right now, my kind of dream team will be Diego as a lead, Lily, who's my disarm toon, who can stun with her weapon, active stun, as well as 100% heal reduction, and when she rushes, she removes positive defensive buffs. Priya as an S-class because of her daze, as well as her remove positive status effects, and her rush is super effective in my opinion by having both impair and confuse, and quite a bit of damage. Glenn is a great toon in my opinion because he can do attack up as well as the defense buff of plus 65%. He can confuse when he rushes. His active skill is Recover Bleed, which is going to be really useful considering it's a bleed meta. And by being a green toon, he can carry a stun weapon. Other than that, he's also a commander, which makes him to be really useful. I could also try subbing in Blue Xander for this position, but I find Glenn to be more offensive, especially because his rush gives that plus 65% attack bonus. The last toon that I have here is James, just because of how much damage he can deal to not just one enemy, but up to 3 enemies, I believe, that are adjacent to him when he has a critical hit. But depending on the other team, I could also use someone like Follow Up Morgan, I could use my Sean, or another toon that does a high amount of damage, because overall it'll be Priya and then this other toon that will be doing the majority of my damage, while Lily and whoever my commander is will be mostly support, and my leader, by being Diego, will be applying that defense down and impair to everyone, while also have an active focus skill. Thank you everyone for watching and listening to my video. I hope you found it to be informative and helpful. And just a reminder, moving forward, I'm going to try and have a video come out every Friday, and then other videos that I end up putting out during the week will be kind of like bonus videos.